Roe is no mo. And I'm going to talk all about it. What really happened, why it happened, and what's happening next. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is the 31st episode of Cancel This Show. Welcome to Cancel This, episode 31, recorded late June 2022. This is the 31st episode, and this is going to be, I had so much planned, I had so much I wanted to talk about for this June episode, and I want to get a lot more episodes out more frequently, but Roe vs. Wade was just shot down by the court. Roe vs. Wade is done. Roe vs. Wade is no longer the law of the land, and there's a lot to talk about, a lot of reaction, a lot of discussion on both sides of the issue. And, there's a lot of hysteria, a lot of people freaking out, a lot of people, rioting, burning, protesting, a lot of people celebrating. And really, I want to kind of wade through all that, all the emotion, and kind of get to what actually happened and what it is, what it actually means, and what's next. And so I'm going to talk pretty much this entire episode today about Roe versus Wade, the changes, and kind of what happens and what's next. Be sure to subscribe if you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/pavementroadprod, Pavement Road Productions on Facebook. You can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe in the YouTube channel, Pavement Road Productions on YouTube. Share the post, tell your friends, and spread the word. Obviously, especially those who are not informed. Right, this is going to be a very informative show today. I usually do a lot of satire, and obviously I do have even not satire, a lot of opinion and that kind of stuff. And of course, there still is going to be some of that. And I do, don't hide the fact that I have a right wing bias, obviously. But every news outlet you come across has a bias. It's just a matter of if they are honest about it or not. So I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you kind of how I feel about this, and go from there. So, a couple things. First of all, what actually happened? So, 6 Supreme Court justices voted to overturn the Casey decision. Planned Parenthood versus Casey. They decided to overturn that decision. Basically, making the abortion law, basically an abortion law is passed, and in Mississippi, and making it that you can only have an abortion for the first 15 weeks of pregnancy, which is, by the way, the European stance. Like, so many people in the U.S. think that abortion up into birth is common. That's not. Like, Europe has a strict abortion. You can have an abortion up to 15 weeks. There's some variation, but that's basically what is agreed upon in Europe. France, for example, is 15 weeks. So, that decision, 6 judges voted for that. 5 of the 6, with Justice Roberts voting with the liberals, as he tends to do, he voted against ending Roe v. Wade, whereas the other 5 did vote to end Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade is no more. So what happens? So that's the law. That is what it means. Roe versus Wade is no longer. It's done. It's over with. It's gone. Now, what does that mean? Because everybody keeps saying, "Oh my gosh, abortions are going to be banned, and women are going to be sold into sex slavery, and they're going to be forced to have children against their will." It's the the Red Hoods of the the stupid show, Bridesmaids, Handmaid's Tale, and all that. It's what it's going to be. Women are going to have their mouths sewn shut and forced to bear children of men that they don't like, and all that. That is not true. Okay, that is not true. That's not happening. That's not what's going to happen. For so many people who are so pro-government, they think the government's going to take care of them always, have very little faith in the government. I'm somebody who has very little faith in the government to begin with, and even I know they're not going to be forcing women to have babies that they don't want to have. There is a couple of rare instances where there may be an exception here and there, but for the most part, we're not going to be seeing that. That's not going to be a thing that's going to happen. So don't even worry yourself about that, because not a thing. The only possibility I would say in this case of there being a woman being forced to have a child, if some states decide to go the route of not allowing there to be, basically if somebody says that there won't be a carve out from the laws for rape and incest and that kind of stuff, that may be the only possible situation where a woman's unfortunately forced to carry a child against their will. But that's not likely, and the only states that would have that strict of a law are very, very, very right-wing states, very red states. And so there's so many arguments. I mean, so many different things that I want to kind of debunk or slap down. And I want you to listen carefully to what I'm saying, because I'm not going to be saying things that aren't true or just opinion, or I'm going to say facts. And if they're inconvenient facts, that's unfortunate. But I want you to listen carefully to what I'm saying, because I'm going to be quoting people. I'm going to be quoting the actual texts of the documents. And I don't need, and YouTube can say that I'm making stuff up or whatever, but I'm reading the facts. So, Roe vs. Wade, Joe Biden, the far-right extremist, white supremacist terrorist Joe Biden, said that, when asked about Roe vs. Wade years ago, said that Roe vs. Wade was a bad law. It was poorly decided, it was poorly written, and, it was, he was happy for the fact that it existed, but admitted, like so many other leftists, that it was poorly written. The law itself is wrong. The law itself did not do what it was supposed to do. That being said, the law, in essence, bent itself into a pretzel. The judges, the lawyers, robe lawyers, bent themselves into a pretzel to find a way to justify abortion and say that it was, in the Constitution, when it most certainly was not, and at this point will never be. And they said it was based on women can have surgeries and procedures, and between them and their doctor, so it's a privacy issue. Despite life, liberty, pursuit of happiness being right there. Life, liberty, property, all that being right there. So life is actually in the document, whereas abortion is not. And the argument was that a woman can have her decision, and basically they wanted to find something in the Constitution, because they know the 10th Amendment says any law that is not specifically in the Constitution goes to the states. Basically, it's like the catch-all. Right, the 10th Amendment is the catch-all. It's if you anything that isn't here is here, right? It's like, here's the things that we are worried about at the federal level. Everything else is at the state level. And abortion was not written in the Constitution. It was not in the Constitution. So if you say that, I like abortion, I want abortion, okay, but it's not in the Constitution. It's not something that was written in invisible ink. Okay, it's not there. It does not exist. It's not a thing. Now, you can want it, you can think it's good, you can think it's something that you deserve to have, and everything like that. And I agree with you in some aspects. That being said, you can't tell me it's in the Constitution, because it's not. I've read the Constitution word for word on several occasions. The word abortion, the word termination of pregnancy, none of that is in the Constitution. So it goes to the states. Now, the argument is, well, guns, people, they're saying that guns are allowed to be carried. New York State lost the day before this decision came out on the Thursday. The decision came out that, New York State can't ask someone why they want a gun in deciding whether they're going to allow them to have a concealed carry. Right. So New York, if you want to apply for a gun, you have to tell them why you want the gun. Like Canada just came out and said you can't have it as self-defense. Self-defense is not a valid reason, which is absurd. That's the number one reason. Like hunting, all that is whatever. Sport shooting is whatever. But to defend yourself against an intruder coming into your house to kill you and your family, a gun is no one reason to have a gun. It's right there. I mean, I think it was some state, some lady she was pregnant, and somebody broke into their trailer or their house and were beating up her husband, and she popped her head out and they shot at her, and she went back in her room, and they continued to beat her husband, and she walked out with a gun and shot at the guys, and I don't know if she killed them or injured them or whatever, but ended the standoff right there, ended the attack right there, and that was it. That is the number one reason to have a gun. But in New York, you can't put down, New York wants to be like Canada. You can't use it as self-defense. You have to have a valid reason to need a gun. And in the Constitution, it says right to bear arms shall not be infringed. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well-regulated militia. All those things are in the Constitution. Because the founders knew that if you give up your ability to defend yourself from intruders or from the government can do what it wants. The Second Amendment is there to protect all the other ones. That's what's been said before, and it's true. If there's a completely unarmed population, the politicians, the government can do whatever they want because nobody's gonna be able to stop them. And you know what? Maybe they do have F-16s and they can bomb people for disagreeing with the government. But you would think that those orders would be ignored, bombing civilians by the military. You would think those because it is a civilian, still a civilian, military for the most part. It's becoming less and less that, but still, they would have the duty and the obligation to ignore that ruling. So guns are in the Constitution. Abortion is not. So if abortion is not in the Constitution, what happens? It goes to the states, and the states can decide. And who runs the states? Elected people. Right? Honestly, if the states want to then kick it further and say, you know what, we're not making a ruling, the counties can decide. Fantastic. Each county can have its own rules. Because the more local, the more, specific. That's why I think a federal minimum wage is terrible. Because how much, you take the minimum wage required to live in New York City or in Los Angeles is very different than in Boise, Idaho. Right? It's very, very different. And in New York compared to Wyoming are very, very different. So to say that you must pay this amount because people in New York need to live, well, you're going to destroy the economy of Wyoming by forcing people to pay that amount. And like different minimum wages, people will say, oh, how can someone live off that wage? Well, you're not really supposed to live off a minimum wage. You're supposed to start there and then build up to a higher wage or a higher paying position or a better job or multiple jobs if need be. I'm somebody who's had multiple jobs multiple times in my life because I needed to live and I wanted a little extra. So there's no reason to have a federal minimum wage, just as there can't be a federal. The more federal laws there are, the worse it is. The federal laws should be can't kill somebody, can't take their property, and if we get attacked by another country, we're going to defend each other, and you can't leave the country. You can't flee and start your own country inside of our borders, which we don't have really borders at this point anyways, especially down south. But so the less federal laws, the better, because if I'm a person in Missouri or Wyoming and you're a person in New York, what do we really have in common? Not a ton, especially if we're being told that America's racist and this and that. We can't work together. We can't we're not America's terrible and I think America's great, so we can't even agree on if our country's good. We can't even agree on what the difference between men and women are. We can't even agree on any of those things. So why should we have the more laws that are pushed down from the federal government down, the more people you're going to isolate. People vote for their state stuff, and they don't as much as they should, of course, but the point of this is to do that. The point of this is if you want something for your area, vote for it. Right? All these men are making laws about women's bodies. Well, if a woman makes a law about a man's body, that's fine. Right? What are you going to do? If you want to shoot somebody, you haven't experienced this, so you can't make a law about it. Well, we don't have we do have universal truth. There is still such thing as universal truth. Right is still right, wrong is still wrong. And in my truth, your truth, that's all BS. There is the truth. Just because you see the world a certain way doesn't make it your truth. It's just the way you see the world. There's still definitive. There's still binary answers. There's still yes and no. There's still right and wrong. There's still up and down. Those things still exist. So with all that being said, each state now gets to make a decision. Right? If Texas wants to say, you know what, no abortions after 15 weeks, no abortions at all, no abortions except for rape and incest, that's their prerogative, and people vote that way. And guess what? If men are making these decisions about women's bodies, because again, only people who could experience this can make the ruling. Okay, well, only criminals can make laws about crime then, because they're the ones who experience crime, or victims of crime and perpetrators of crimes are the only ones who can make laws about crime. No, that's not how it works. And by the way, even if it was, who elected the men? Do women have the right to vote in those states? If women vote for men, and then men make decisions about women's bodies, women vote for the men. If a woman doesn't think the man's doing a good job, run for the office and get yourself elected. And maybe there's societal things, maybe there's reasons that a woman can or this and that, but legally they can't. So go do it. We have a female vice president. I'll reserve judgment on how well she's doing, but she was elected. So leave it at that. What else? So now, again, you can go to your state and you can decide what you want to do. What's best for you? What's best for your part of the country, part of the world? Your state, your city. What's the best thing? What can you do? Make your decision. Vote. Because again, if women and the people who are protesting the loudest are people in New York and California. New York and California are going nowhere with abortion. They're going to have unlimited abortions for the most part. It's going to be, you basically can do whatever you want in those states. But they want to be able to tell other states what they should have. Somebody who thinks abortion is murder in Alabama is being told, no, it's not. You're wrong. It's wonderful. You can't be equal to men if you can't get an abortion. Well, a person in Alabama may not think that way, and now they can vote and say, hey, I think we should have abortion legal to this point, or legal to this point, or not legal at all. And people in LA and California are mad not because they're worried about women in Alabama. They're mad because they can't tell women from Alabama how to think. So the federal government isn't pushing down with force on those other states and saying this is what you must do. So it's about control, absolutely, but it's not about control of men on women. It's about control of liberals on conservatives. Liberals want to be able to tell conservatives what to think, and this is right and this is wrong, and you can't have an opinion otherwise because the federal government says this. Well, guess what? If you're in a state that doesn't feel that way, now you have that option. Now you can vote to do things the way you want to do them. So Roe v. Wade going away, that's what that means. That's all it means. It means now states can vote. And people say, oh, well, it's anti-democratic and it's illegitimate for the Supreme Court. No. The Supreme Court's job is to interpret laws and decide how they fit into the Constitution or if they don't. That's what they did. And it's not anti-democratic to let people vote on an issue. That's actually the opposite of anti-democratic. It's very much democratic. And the more local it gets, the better, right? You could live in the bluest of blue states and have a red pocket. Why do you have red pockets in blue states? Because it's local. Because all politics is local. If you don't want something, vote for it. Or move. Well, I'm somebody who moved multiple states multiple times. I had a little help, but I moved with basically $0 to my name. I saved up a few bucks and moved. Multiple times, multiple different states, across the country. And guess what? If I really, really hated a policy, and I thought I couldn't live without it, or with it, I could move to another state. I could do it. And you can do it too, if you don't like it. If you vote a certain way, and the vote doesn't go your way, and you think it's the worst thing ever, and it's horrible, you can definitely move. You can move to a nearby state. So that is the truth of what actually did happen. Roe v. Wade being overturned returns the right to the states. Period. And the states can now decide. And guess what? If a government runs on, hey, I'm going to get rid of all abortions, they're going to be all illegal, no exceptions, then vote that governor out if you like it. But I feel like, here's the thing, people who are protesting, 99.8% of them are never going to have experience wanting an abortion, needing an abortion, not being able to get it. 99.8% of them are never going to have that problem. Because they're either going to be in a state that allows it, they're going to be able to go to a nearby state to get it, or they're never going to want or need an abortion to begin with. It's very, very rare that somebody's going to be having an issue where they need an abortion, they have to have one for whatever reason, and they're in a state that they can't get one for any reason, and I mean, and they can't go to another state, and the state law prohibits it and everything like that. All three of those things being factors is very unlikely that that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a problem. But they want to be able to push down their beliefs on the people. That's the whole point. I want to be able to tell people what they can and can't do. I want them to be able to live their lives. Right? And not for nothing, but the percentage of people of women who need abortion due to rape or incest is less than 1%. So the argument is, women shouldn't have to carry a child that they don't want. Well, things have consequences. I want to be able to drive 100 miles an hour down the street in the rain with other cars around me. But that has a risk. I could get killed. So if you do things that could produce a child, and then a child is produced, that's a risk. I've had multiple chances to do those things with multiple people, but I chose not to because I didn't want to be stuck with a child with somebody who I don't really care about that much. It's really, it's not like you're being, it's like an unwanted pregnancy, or being, there's so many ways to avoid a quote unquote unwanted pregnancy. Don't have sex. Number one, big one right there. It's not, there's not stork's not gonna drop on your door. Okay, stork's not gonna drop a baby off on your door. Okay, don't do things like that. Or wait till you're married, or wait till it's with somebody you really care about, and you can see a future with. Don't just do it to get your rocks off. B, use contraception, use birth control, use condoms. Absolutely. C, be proactive. You think something might have failed, or there might be contraceptive didn't work. Most states are going to have abortion laws like 15, 16, 20 weeks. If you haven't figured out that you're pregnant in 4 months, probably should pay better attention. And the argument, women can't be equal to men unless they can have abortions. Women aren't equal to men. Women are superior to men. Women can do things that men couldn't dream of doing. Women can create life. Yes, they need men to do it. But women can create life. Man can't do that. So, I don't know about you, but if I have the opportunity to create a new life, create a human, but instead I'd rather not do that and go work for somebody because I want a quote-unquote career. And guess what? You want a career? Go get a career. A lot of women have children and have careers. Most of the time that requires them to be with somebody they care about first, so they can together take care of the child. So do that. Don't just sleep around for the sake of sleeping around. And that goes for men too, obviously. Men are as responsible for the creation of the child as women. Women are the ones who get to bring the child into the earth, into the world. So don't just. I mean, it's like we have to. Let me put it this way: if abortion wasn't around, if you couldn't just abort a child immediately, every time, every time, what would you do? How would you act? Maybe you wouldn't sleep around so much. Guess what? Women don't like men who sleep around. Guys don't like women who sleep around. Have less partners, less risk of having a child, and you don't have to worry about abortion. Taking other measures to prevent it. All those things. So many other options. But if abortion wasn't one of them, what would you do? You'd find a way. You'd figure something else out. You'd use one of the other several options available to you. Right? Well, the other argument is, they won't just stop with abortion. They want to get rid of contraceptions and different types of marriage, gay marriage, this and that. Well, by the way, some of those things are not in the Constitution. So, again, you have the states. And you're saying, and the biggest problem with people freaking out over Roe v. Wade is they think that the people around them are psychos. They have no idea people around them agree with them on most things. They don't understand that. They think that people around them are just super crazy and radical, and they want to want children to die and women to die and all this. No, most people are pretty moderate. We live in a very, very moderate country. Freedoms, responsibilities, rights, responsibilities. That's most of what our country is. Very, very rarely would people vote for, I want no abortion at all, or I want no, like 90% of the country believes that some abortion is okay, and 90% of the country believes that abortion up to the point of birth is wrong. So, 80% of the country is in the middle on that issue, somewhere in the middle. So, being able to vote on that, you can now define it. You can now define what that is, where that is for you. We don't compromise anymore. This side wins, and then the other side undoes what that side does, and it reverts back to the other one, and then the other side wins, and they get rid of what that side did and revert back to the other side. That's a huge, huge problem, and you can't really sustain any progress or any growth like that, because one dictator eliminates the last dictator did, and so on and so forth. But I think the one thing that's really, really important, and the one thing that we need to get out of Roe versus Wade, one thing that must come out of Roe versus Wade being shot down is, and again, each state can do it, or we can do it on a federal level. Again, I prefer the states doing it. But some areas, some people, Ralph Northam of Virginia, the former governor of Virginia, was okay with abortion after birth. Yes, I know. Roll your eyes at me. No, literally, he said, the baby will be born, we'll keep it comfortable, and then we'll decide what to do with it. Okay? So, what percent of Americans think that's wrong? 98% think that's a terrible idea, to be able to kill a baby after it's born because I didn't get the way I wanted, or it's got certain defects. It's not perfect, right? And other people think a child should not be aborted after conception. Conception is it. That's it. Nothing else. It's still a clump of cells at that point. It's not a baby. Okay. Well, where's the truth? And what can we agree on? Because there has to be an answer. It can't just be, well, whatever I feel like. I saw a picture of a woman who's about to pop any day now. Like, you're so pregnant. And they wrote on her belly, still not a human. So the baby that was going to be born, could be born tomorrow, is not a human. It's not human until birth is given to it. Well, in some states, if you like, even California, I think, if you murder a pregnant woman, you get charged with 2 murders: the murder of the woman and the pregnant baby. But then you have that woman decides 5 minutes before that to have an abortion, or 5 minutes after that to have an abortion, and it's not murder. You can't have it both ways. And we'll talk more about the men can get pregnant thing and all that too, and that's coming up after. That's the next part of this. But the truth is, we have to have an answer. We need a middle ground. That's the most important thing I want to come out of Roe versus Wade. What's the middle ground? When does a human become a human? Is it 15 weeks? Is it when it can survive outside the womb? Is it again, it can vary based on different things, right? It can vary based on each state. Some states are stricter, some states are way more open. But it's a woman's body, right? A woman has the right to choose to do with her own body. But at some point, it's not just her body anymore. At some point, that child could survive outside the womb. So I'm not saying what a woman should have to be forced to do with her body. But we have to understand that at some point, it's not just her body. She's eating for 2, right? And in fact, that baby controls more of her body than she does in a lot of cases. So, when is life begin? When is a baby and not just a clump of cells? That's what we need to decide on, because it can't be different for each person. Each state can have a decision, can have its answer, but it's like saying, well, I was gonna have this baby, but I decided I can't afford it now, so I have to kill it. Well, what if that child is now 3 years old? I mean, there has to be a line somewhere. And again, there can be gray areas, there can be whatever. We need to have some sort of general idea, some sort of basic consensus. And I think that's what the most important thing to come out of Roe versus Wade. I think that's what we need to do now as a society. And we'll talk more about the reactions to it and everything like that, and all the things that led up to this decision coming out. But the bottom line is, we need to have an answer of when does life begin. And we don't. And compromising is such a big thing. We used to do it all the time in our founding, and now we don't do it anymore. It's my way or no way. Well, why don't you give a little? I'll give a little. We'll meet in the middle. And I think that's what we really need as a society right now, more than anything else. And of course, the whole "my body, my choice" thing is just a joke. I mean, my body, my choice. But if I want you to inject a experimental drug into your body, you have to do it, because it's the rule, and you'll lose your job if you're in the medical field, or if you have your company has federal contracts, you'll lose your job if you don't do it. And of course that affects me and it affects everybody else. Yeah, well, you being promiscuous and you having to kill your child affects us too. Affects other people too, not just you. So, that's my body, my choice is a joke. Because it's been a joke since the whole mandating vaccines. So, and of course, Joe Biden was a good leader, which we know he's not. He's terrible. He's not a good leader. He's used to be a good politician, and he's good at licking his finger and pointing it in the air and seeing which way the wind blows, but he's not a good leader. He doesn't lead people. But if he was, he could have used this opportunity to unify the country, right? He could have said, hey, look, I disagree with the ruling. I think it was the wrong decision, even though I said years ago it was the right decision to overturn it, or would be the right decision to overturn it. He could have used that. This is a unifying moment. He could have said, hey, I disagree with this. I think this court made the wrong decision, but I respect the court, and I'm going to still fight to try to fight for women's right to choose, and I think we can do that. But I think we all, some people see it one way, some people see it the other way, and something like that. You can kind of point to, everybody doesn't agree on everything. We can all agree. We can agree to disagree sometimes. I'm going to still fight for women's right to choose, and that he could have given himself, hey, I'll vote for me. I'm going to keep fighting for you, and he could have said, hey, we all need to come together, and and that kind of thing. But of course, he doesn't do that. He eventually came out and gave a half-hearted, hey, protest peacefully. After a while of all the protests and all the violence and all everything like that, and clinics getting burned down, and without a word from him, he did finally come out and say, let's protest peacefully. But he could use that to unify the country, but he doesn't care about unifying the country. Dividing the country is actually better for him because you can divide and conquer. You can have your side fighting with the other side, and then they're not looking at how stupid and how terrible you are. So that's what he should have done, but he's a terrible leader, of course, so he didn't do that. So as we go ahead then and kind of move on, it's really interesting to tell how much a movement, quote unquote movement means, right? How much does a movement mean to, society or to the organization that's running it, right? The Me Too movement, right? The Me Too movement, took down all these Hollywood elites. It took down, a bunch of people. Andrew Cuomo, politicians, other celebrities, Hollywood people. Bill Cosby. Even though, well, that was a whole different thing, but it's still the same premise. The lying prosecutors took down Bill Cosby, and he was probably guilty, but you can't break the law and then put someone in jail because he broke the law. Anyways, so Me Too movement, right? It's got all this steam. It's doing all these things. Believe all women, right? Like, we're gonna call Brett Kavanaugh a serial rapist in front of his family, in front of his kids, and then threaten to kill him. What the person tried to do. And then we do that. We drag his name through the mud. We have people testify against him who never even met him before, allegedly. All these things. And then Ketanji Brown Jackson is asked to define what a woman is, and it's the most horrific treatment a Supreme Court justice has ever gotten. Well, I remember 2 years ago when you did that to Brett Kavanaugh. Or when you said that, you called basically, when they called Amy Coney Barrett a crazy Bible thumper. All right? That's only bad when the right does it, right? If the right does, everything the right does is bad, everything the left does is perfect and wonderful, and it's just reactions to what the left did, to the right did. You can say anything you want, Trump's great, Trump's terrible. Biden is corrupt. There's evidence of Biden's corruption, and nobody wants to talk about it. Media doesn't want to talk about it. There's all kinds of crimes that people on the left commit all the time. Worse than people on the right. People on the right go to jail, people on the left get nothing. And the law should be the law should be equal. But we have to let people out of jail on the right if people on the left doing the same thing and getting away with it. It has to be equal. You have to put the same person in jail for the same crime, regardless of what side they're on. All that being said, the Me Too movement had all this steam, all this momentum, and then the Jeffrey Epstein stuff came out, and now we don't care what happened to these women. We don't care what happened to these, these women who were abused. And then somebody accuses Joe Biden of sexual harassment, and the Me Too movement disappears. Gone. History. Never to be seen from or heard from ever again. Right? Same thing with with the gender fluidity and all that stuff. Because men can be women. Men can identify as women. Men can get pregnant. The emojis say so on the iPhone. But now, if you don't have a uterus, you're not a woman, and you can't then speak on women's issues. Well, I thought men could get pregnant, so men can speak on women's issues. Maybe I'm thinking about becoming a woman, and I want to know information about having abortions. Well, I can't talk about it. I don't have a right to say anything because I'm not a woman yet. But I thought a woman wasn't about her reproductive organs. And it's not. It's about a lot more than that. It's about her actual DNA. It's about her. You can run a DNA test. Somebody's healthy, male or female, without even look at them, because their DNA is male or female, and their body type and everything else. But all of a sudden, we don't know what a man is or what a woman is, or we didn't, and now we do, because men can't talk about this issue. It's really pretty crazy that all of a sudden we know what a man is, and all of a sudden we know what a woman is all of a sudden. It's kind of crazy. Kind of came out of nowhere. Just really tells you how much a movement means when as soon as something else comes up that kind of goes against the narrative, it just disappears, right? It just disappears. It's crazy, right? The Epstein's flight list, and Joe Biden being accused of sexual harassment, of sexual abuse, sexual assault. All of a sudden, those movements just disappear. You don't hear anything from them anymore. It's almost like they're biased and political, and don't actually say what they mean, right? Black Lives Matter. When 70 black people are shot and killed, or shot in Chicago over a weekend, 100 are shot over a weekend. Where's Black Lives Matter? Oh, it only matters when it's certain things, right? It's a joke. It's not even accurate. Because when a movement can fall apart that fast, it never had any stable grounding. It was just basically a political movement. So, and by the way, you can't. Now women. I just don't understand feminism. I really don't. How come women can't stand up for themselves against this BS, right? I mean, this is a women's health issue. We don't know what a woman is. What is a woman? We don't know. We can't even say the word. The word woman is offensive. So we can't say it. So we don't know what a woman is. So we have to have an argument about what a woman is before we can say that what a woman is, to then have a women's issue. A women's healthcare issue. All right. If you say so. Just baffling. Absolutely just mind-blowing. Right, so, and women, feminism. We support organizations. We support, they come out in support of the Palestinians and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Palestinians stone women for being raped, right? We support you because you're tearing down the patriarchy by stoning women to death who get raped. Okay, sure. We support transgenderism. Anybody who wants to identify as a woman can be a woman. Okay. And don't use the term woman. We're feminists. We can't use the term woman or female. It's birthing person and chest feeding and another new one, menstruating person. Because men get periods and have babies. Just craziness. And YouTube will probably hate me for saying this and want to take this down. And, it is what it is. The truth hurts. Because you can't have a different opinion. You have to have the same opinion as everybody else. And I'm not one to do that. So, another side note, kind of switching gears a little bit more. All this stuff about abortion, how unwanted pregnancy and unwanted children and all this stuff. I can't imagine why children grow up so messed up. Their parents talk about how they could have had an abortion, or they wish they want a right to kill their children before they're born. Imagine if your mother said that to you. There's a lot of people depressed who say that they wish they were aborted. Well, I can see why the culture is so messed up. I can see why things are so all over the place. I can see it. It's crazy. And as a person who has children, like, if you have children, why would you be so pro the right to kill them? Like, they're talking about now about how promiscuity is going to be going down because people aren't going to be wanting to hook up and they might get something with the baby. Good. That's what always was designed. Like, mammals are designed to do things to reproduce, and it's supposed to feel good, so you want to do it. So you want to reproduce. If reproduction was really painful and terrible, and the actual act of creating life was really painful and horrible, and nobody would want to do it. Now people want to do it all the time because it feels good. They just don't want the actual, what comes from it. Population is down. Divorce is up. Marriage is down. Because why buy the cow if you get the milk for free, right? So don't have any intimate connection. Just have as much sex as possible. Or not. Or maybe not. Right? If you couldn't, like, I'm not telling a woman what she needs to do with her body. But if you couldn't have an abortion, what would you do? And this is for guys, this is for everybody. Like, again, a guy shouldn't have sex with a woman if he doesn't want to have the consequences. Maybe less guys will be less of players if they owe child support from day one, you know? They're saying, oh, if a woman is impregnated and she can't have an abortion, well, child support should start from the time she becomes pregnant. Absolutely. The guy should definitely have to pay for prenatal care. Of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. Sounds good to me. I'm not trying to get the guys off the hook here. In fact, I think the guy should have more on the hook. If a dude's pro-choice, he's not a good dude. Because he wants to be able to screw you and not have consequences. So what's the bottom line here? What's the whole point? What's this all about? I really do think the bottom line here, to kind of put a bow on this whole thing, right? I talk about what happened with Roe v. Wade being overturned. Talk about why it happened. And why it happened is important too, because Joe Biden himself said it's bad law. Said the law is bad. Said there's nothing in the Constitution about it. It was poorly decided. But as the dissent said, right, as the dissent in the case, the people who were voted against, ending Roe v. Wade, said, the liberals on the court, as they said, we really want abortion, so we're going to make it a constitutional thing. It's not in the Constitution, but we like it, so we're going to say it is in the Constitution. Not how it works. You can make as many, and like I said, and people say, oh, we should get rid of the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. No, we shouldn't. You just have to have less federal law. It's that's really, really all it is. Everybody freaking out about Roe versus Wade. You're going to have your option to have abortions. You're going to have a chance. You're going to be able to do what you need to do. Make an appointment, drive there for the day, and go home. It's not, the farthest anybody's going to have to go is from Utah to Colorado to get an abortion. That's as far as it's going to need to go. Or from Miami, if Florida bans abortion, which it's not going to do. Florida's going to have a very moderate abortion law. It's a red state, but it's going to have it's way more socially, it's a little more socially liberal than some other red states. So you're still gonna be able to do what you need to do. Okay, you're still gonna be able to do what you want to do or need to do or think is appropriate. There's no shout your abortion. Your abortion's a great thing. A lot of people later down the line really regret it. And why are you having abortions? So you can have a nice career, have lots of money. Okay, well, when your life is ending, what's going to be more valuable? The money you made, the career you had, or the child you bear? The family you created. The life you created and birthed into the world. So you'll still be able to do what you want to do. It's not going anywhere. And all you have to do is vote for candidates, right, in the primaries, in the actual election, who are going to uphold your values, whichever those values are. California has no right to tell Alabama what to do, just as Alabama has no right to tell California what to do. Right? Mississippi and California are very different. I've said it before. So making a law that's a national law that covers both states doesn't work. And guess what? Men made these decisions, right? We voted for, men don't have a right to tell women what to do about their bodies. Well, who's the politicians? The men you elected. The women who voted for those men wanted those men. And if they make those decisions, that's what the women voted for. Who are you to say they shouldn't? And guess what? If we can compromise, if we're willing to compromise, which would be a thing we haven't done in so long, since the founding of the country, if we're willing to compromise, we can, this side wants this side wants that, we'll meet somewhere in the middle. One side wants abortion up into including after birth. One wants it at the point wants to ban it at the point of conception. Well, let's meet in the middle somewhere. Maybe like 4 months. Right? Because, I mean, the what has been said is abortion is like basically how the argument is, and the left's whole thing is to scare people. You're not gonna be able to get abortions now. You're not gonna be able to get abortions. It's the single most important thing you do. Like, it is like, you're not gonna be able to pray. They don't want you to be able to pray. You can have an abortion, but you can't pray. That's what the left wants. You can't pray in private at home, but you should be able to have an abortion up until including after birth. So, like I said, you're still going to be able to have your abortion. Now you just have to vote on when it's legal and when it's not, and we have to draw that line. And again, you can have carve-outs for certain things. Have a carve-out for rape. Have a carve-out for incest if you want. Have a carve-out for, hey, if the mother's life's in danger and the only way to save her is to abort the child, then that's what we have to do. And that's a medical decision the doctor has to make. Doctors make medical decisions all the time. Two people are injured and they show up at EMT, right? Two people are injured, or two people are rushed into the emergency room, and the doctor's only one person and only take care of one of them, and they have to figure out, triage who's more important to save, right? If the president and a Secret Service agent were both shot, they're going to save the president, right? If a mother and a baby are both dying and they're going to save one of them, they're probably going to save the mother. At least that's probably what most people would say and most people would want. And again, some others would say no, save the baby. Because not being able to afford your kids, not being able to afford, not being able to be in a position to take care of the kids doesn't make the child have to die. Get better, get assistance, get help. Don't kill the baby. That's the last thing you should do. And I'm not gonna. And it's in this day and age, I'm not gonna have kids at all probably because I want to be able to do more things and have more stuff, or I can't afford to take care of the baby until I'm in my 40s and I'm fully established. It's about sacrifice. Having children, you don't want to sacrifice and not be able to feed the children, but maybe you have a couple less things so you can have a child. I mean, having a child is about sacrifice, but it's all about me. What can I have? And if a child takes away from something I want or I need, then the child can't exist. And that's not the society. That's a mess. That's terrible. Having less partners, raising, you need no man, but you do, because you have to have if you want to have an abortion, you had to have a man in there somewhere. Or someone who identifies as a man and has man parts for the censors. So, bottom line, I mean, you now get to decide. Like, Roe v. Wade being overturned is simply returning the issue to the states. It's not making one law that covers all things. Abortion was never in the Constitution. Never was. So all the Supreme Court did, and the media is telling you again, you're not going to be able to have your abortion. You are. And people are freaking out are in New York. And California. Okay. It's not New York and California you have to worry about. Okay, New York and California are going to be abortion. Abortion Disneyland. Come here and ride the rides and get an abortion and go home. And again, if you're afraid of that, move to one of those states. Take your liberal policies and move to those states. That's fine. A lot of people are leaving those states because taxes are bad and weather's bad and whatever. California weather's nice, but taxes are bad and politicians are corrupt and everything else. So they're moving out of those states. Well, if abortion means that much, you move back. If that's the only thing you care about, move back, or vote that way. It's really that simple. Liberals always say it's a threat to democracy. It's a threat to democracy. It's not a threat to democracy if people get to vote on something. And we're a republic, by the way. We're not a democracy, we're a republic. But either way, it's not a threat to democracy when the Supreme Court says this organization doesn't have the power the people do. That's not against democracy. It's against liberalism, perhaps, but it's not against democracy. And in liberalism, liberals always say it's a threat to democracy when they don't get their way. They complain like a salty sports fan. They blame the refs, right? AOC says, and other people have said, that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. They want to get rid of the Supreme Court. They want to get rid of the Senate because every state has equal representation in the Senate. Bicameral legislation. Because they can't force their policies on people that they don't like. So they have to get rid of their things that are in their way. But they're for democracy. They're for the democratic norms. By tearing down other stuff that they don't like. By tearing down organizations that they don't like. That get in their way of their power grabs. The Supreme Court's supposed to check and balance the other branches, and the Congress is supposed to move slowly. You can't make sweeping legislation. The whole point of our system of government is so you can't make sweeping changes. And I'm a federalist. I think give the states the rights. Let each state decide what they want. They do it with elections. They do that with all kinds of other things. So the less federal laws, the better. Let the states decide what they want. And as long as they're not, completely violating, civil rights, and they're not, going against the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and property, they're not going after those things. They can do what they want. You want to, and they said, and then, Clarence Thomas talks about, relooking at Obergefell and looking at, gay marriage and contraception and all of that. There's no constitutional right to either one of those things. Now, again, if you put, should we allow contraception? Should there be condoms for sale? What percentage of states are going to vote for that? 99 or 100%? Because every single state, even the super Christian states, people are in a ballot box, secret ballot, nobody looking over their shoulder telling them which way to vote. They're going to vote for condoms. They're going to vote for birth control pills. Of course they are. But if we're following, the point of it is the law is the law. And if the law doesn't say these things, we can't say it says these things. So the decision was correct. Even if you disagree with it, it was correct. You don't get to vote on judges, and it's not illegitimate. The Supreme Court is not illegitimate just because it went against you. The law says what the law says. You can't make something up that's not in the law. And the Supreme Court's job is not to make up laws. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole biggest problem I'm having right now with Senate and everything else. And the Congress, they want to appoint judges who are going to say, this is what the law says because I say so. Right? I mean, they just had I think just today coming out, the football coach, right? The football coach from, I think, Washington, wanted to pray after his games. And I play football. I play lots of sports. My coaches prayed before and after a lot of the games. And sometimes we joined in, sometimes we didn't. Right? But this coach wanted to pray after the game. Went off to the side, says a couple prayers, right? Thanking God that nobody got seriously injured and all those things. And he lost his job because he was doing that, and other players wanted to join in with him. Didn't force them, they just joined in. And 3 members of the Supreme Court said that's against the Constitution to pray on your own. In public, outside, in a public space, praying. I mean, that's a violation of the Constitution. But again, the law, the Supreme Court has become, we want this, so they should say it's legal because we want it. But that's not their job. It takes guts to not do that. It takes guts not to go with the public opinion, but to do what's right and wrong. To read the Constitution and interpret it. And that's what they did. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say abortions. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say an unwanted pregnancy. So it's not in there. So if it's not in there, it goes back to the states. And all the states can decide. And guess what? Most, maybe a small handful, will have no abortion. And if people don't like that, they'll vote the people out who made that the thing. If they don't want that, if that's very important to them, then get rid of that. If that's the one issue that matters the most, get rid of the person who's for that and put somebody else in there who won't. It's very simple. It's not like you're getting impregnated from a mystery that falls from the sky. If you have very, very restrictive abortion laws, then take precaution. If you have no restriction on abortion and you think it's fine to abort as many babies as you want, then that's on you, and you can do that too. Play by the rules of the game you're in. That's all there is to it. And like I said, the Supreme Court takes guts to read the Constitution and say what's in the Constitution. Even if people think the Constitution's wrong, whatever, guess what? It's in the Constitution. If you think the Constitution's wrong, go leave this country, go form your own country somewhere else, or go to Emmanuel Macron was saying how regressive this is, this law. Well, it's funny because the law that was being argued is actually more progressive than his country, in France. So talk about how terrible America is. You think abortion is just wide open across the country, across the world? It's not. It's very restrictive in a lot of countries. We have way more open abortion laws than a lot of other countries. By limiting it a little bit more, we're actually being more on par with Europe. And of course, they're saying that they want to, people say, well, they're going to get rid of it eventually, permanently. If you think that's what's going to happen, if you really think that's a possibility, because I don't know very many people who would vote to eliminate all abortion. I don't know very many people who would vote to limit it at all. You still have a vote. And you can use it however you want to use it. And like I said, it does take guts to the Supreme Court to uphold the law, because Brett Kavanaugh's life was threatened. Someone attempted to murder him. The media's not going to talk about it. It was on page 26 of the New York Times. It wasn't even, I don't think CNN even covered it. Somebody tried to murder a Supreme Court justice because the opinion was leaked. And guess what? The opinion was leaked. Are we ever going to find out who did that? Are we ever going to find out who leaked that? Because that's against the law. And they did it with one reason, that was to cause problems, to cause people getting hurt. Maybe to cause people getting killed. But they didn't care. Doesn't matter. What a mess. All about democratic norms, things that we, do it the way we've always done it, unless of course it goes against what I need, then we do it a different way. The fact that this opinion was leaked at all is very, very upsetting. But again, if it was leaked by somebody on the right, on something that was, going to go against the right, and they're going to go protest at this, if they were protesting at Kagan or Sotomayor's house, the media would be all over it. They'd cover it and say how horrible this is. This is an insurrection. Meanwhile, people in Congress, actual Congress people, are saying that the Supreme Court should be thrown out, should just be disbanded or packed in violation of the Constitution, telling people to violate the law by protesting in front of the Supreme Court justices' houses, winking and nodding at them, talking about dog whistles. There's one right there. Doxing the Supreme Court justices, breaking the law. And that's fine because we don't like them. But if you do it to one of our justices, it's a big deal. We can't live in a country where different sets of rules apply. And that's what the whole point of this was. The whole point of this was, the law does not say this, so it says this. If it's not in the Constitution, it goes back to the states. States cannot decide. People can vote in those states, they can decide. And I said, if I was governor of a state, and especially of a purple state, I'd say, all right, cool. I'm not making a ruling on this. All counties can decide what they want. I'm passing it on the counties. Pass it on to each town. And that way, the next town over, you want to go to get an abortion, go to the next town over. Or you want an abortion, go to the next county. The more local, the better. Because each pocket, each county, each town, people have a bigger influence over that than they do over their state, over their country. Right? If you really, really want an abortion up into after birth, you can do that. You can vote in your county to set that up. In your or above that, it's your state. Your vote in the national level doesn't mean as much as it does in the state and local level. So everything starts local. But again, when 3 Supreme Court justices are threatened, when members of Congress are saying that we should tear down the system and we should get rid of the Supreme Court, and we called them illegitimate because they didn't agree with us, it's bordering maybe on, is that insurrection? I don't know. Showing up to a judge's house to kill him with equipment to kill him and his family? I don't know. That sounds pretty insurrection-y to me. I mean, based on the standards, if they want to impeach Supreme Court justices because they said that there's established law on certain topics. Right, there is established law. But also laws are sometimes wrong. And that's another thing I want to talk about. The stare decisis and the decisions that have been already made now they're are codified. Well, by that logic, then Brown v. Board and Dred Scott and all that, right? Judges make mistakes. This court has been wrong. And if they overturn precedent, they overturn precedent because it could be a bad precedent, right? If every decision that's ever been made could not be overturned, we'd still have fugitive slave laws. We'd still have segregation. But when something's poorly decided, it can be overturned. That's the whole point. So, and it should be decided based on what's in the Constitution, not how we feel. You shouldn't, again, the judiciary is not supposed to make laws or rubber stamp things. That's what they do in Venezuela. That's why they haven't had an honest election in Venezuela in 100 years. Because the court just says yes. There's 50 people on the Supreme Court, and whenever one side takes over, they add more people to the Supreme Court, and then the other side takes over, they add more people to the Supreme Court, and it just keeps going until everybody's on the Supreme Court, and they just rubber stamp whatever the people in charge say. They're a check and a balance. That's what it is. That's what it's there for. But we don't get what we want, so we have to tear it down and start over. Well, then again, it's crazy. What if you control everything, right? You control the House, you control the Senate, you control the presidency. Make a law then. Put your money where your mouth is. Make a law. The law is this. Well, you have the chance to do that. You have plenty of laws. You have plenty of opportunity. You control all means of all the government. Make a law, but you don't want to because you don't have to put your policy out there. Somebody was going back and forth with me on social media. And I said to them, look, you can quote whatever you want, quote this, quote that. The bottom line is we need an answer. When does life begin? They couldn't give me an answer. They couldn't say. They just talked around it for another 10 minutes. Just tell me, tell us what your policy is, and then we can vote on it. But you don't want to do that. You want to hide behind the Supreme Court. You want to hide behind the bureaucracy. You want to hide behind the executive branch. You in Congress are making a lot of money to not do anything. So it does take courage. It does take, standing against the premonitions or the persuasions of people who don't have your best interest in mind. They want to do it their way, and if you give them what they want, they'll leave you alone. Right? Rioters and protesters. It's mostly peaceful, really, because 20, now more than that, family planning centers were burned down because they tell people about, they don't immediately, somebody comes in, they're pregnant, they don't immediately say get an abortion. They want you to maybe weigh the other options first. And Christian organizations who, if you don't have the baby, we'll find someone who, if you want the baby, we'll find someone who can adopt it for you. If you're not ready to have a baby and be a parent. Because always people who are looking to adopt, especially babies. Always. So, but let's burn down all these, they burn down all these centers and hurt people. But we don't want to talk about that because people don't like hearing about that. So the media's not going to talk about it. But it's happening. Happened in my hometown, and it wasn't even in the newspaper. Wasn't even talked about. Wasn't on the news. Nobody talked about it. It's weird though, because like 20 of them just spontaneously combusted, or in the same weekend, and then an organization took credit for it. Jane's Revenge took credit for it. A domestic terrorism. I'm talking about domestic terrorism. It's not all on the right. A lot more of it's on the left, actually. Domestic terrorism. But the media doesn't cover this stuff on the right, on the left. They cover stuff on the right. Just like they don't cover Hunter Biden, and they don't cover the other stuff that people should know about. That if we had an honest media, they would just tell you the facts, let you decide. But they can't tell you the facts because they don't want you to decide. They want you to believe what they believe, and that's it. So, in conclusion, all you have to do is go vote. Right? If you want, you make a decision on when life begins, and vote to that effect. If you vote. If you want to vote to kill every baby that's ever been conceived, well, the human race this will be the last generation of human race. Maybe somebody else can have kids because you don't have to have them. Roe versus Wade was poorly decided. There is no right to an abortion in the Constitution. 0. If you want one, you can vote to have one in your state. It does take courage to stand up against the mob. When your lives are being threatened, you have to go into hiding because they're threatening your life. And the media doesn't care. The media would be happy. If a Supreme Court judge got killed, now it's 4-4, or Biden gets to appoint a new one, now it's 5-4 the other way, the media would love it. They would not be mad at all at somebody for killing a Supreme Court justice. Bottom line is, all you gotta do is vote. Vote whichever way you want. And here's the thing. And the biggest thing here is vote for what really matters. Right? If the only thing you care about, is abortion, then you're gonna vote that way, and that's fine. But here's the way I see it. The odds of you needing an abortion are pretty low. The odds of you needing an abortion and not being able to get it in your state is even lower. Like, people want an abortion. Everybody here talking about wanting an abortion. 99.8% of them are going to be able to get an abortion when they want it, without any issue. Like 99.8%. So the media and the left, Democrats, all they want you to do is focus on that. Focus on the possibility that someday you may want an abortion, or your child someday, who you're going to kill, so you're not going to be able to have that child, but your child someday may want an abortion, and they may not be able to get it someday down the line. That's what they want you to focus on, not the economy, not the stock market, not the job market, not the crisis in Ukraine that was caused in no small part by the Biden administration and their terrible policy. Pay no attention to Epstein's flight log, for example. I'll bring that up again. Pay no attention to Joe Biden's family crime spree. Pay no attention to that either. Pay no attention to the incompetence. Pay no attention to gas prices. Pay no attention to food prices. Pay no attention to all the shortages that we've had that aren't COVID related. They're Biden related. They're the White House related. They're the Congress related. Poor policy. Bad planning. Don't worry about that. Worry about the fact that someday down the line, maybe at some point, possibly, probably not, but maybe you might want an abortion and not be able to get it. Because somehow the magic baby fairy is going to drop a baby in your stomach and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You had no control over what happened. It's not health care, by the way. Because health care isn't usually killing a living person. It's not removing a tumor. Imagine how the baby feels. Jeez. Every baby who's born is basically just a clump of cells with a tumor in their mother. And that needs to be removed. And everybody who's pro killing babies is actually born alive right now. There's nobody who was aborted who is pro-life right now. Is pro-abortion, I should say. So, just keep that in mind. But all those things, right? All those things. You won't be able to get gas in your car to go drive to the abortion clinic to get an abortion, or get on a plane to go fly there because the prices are so high. And the flights keep being canceled because there's no job. They can't get a job, can't get fuel for the airplanes, all those things. No employees. But you can just keep that abortion. You can't go get it anywhere other than, unless you can walk there because transportation's no good. And then you get to the abortion clinic and it's not staffed either. It's literally the single most important thing in the country. Nothing else matters. And that's what they want you to focus on. That's what they want you to vote for. So go ahead and vote. Go ahead and vote. You can vote to guarantee that if you ever someday might at some point need an abortion, you can get it. Or you can vote for things that are right in front of your face. And that's what we'll leave with. When you go ahead and vote, think about the odds of you needing an abortion versus the odds of the economy being terrible and getting worse, not being able to afford gas, not being able to afford food. They say one of the reasons they abort a child is because you're in poverty. Well, the poverty is going to keep going up at the current rate we're going. And that's, by the way, that's what government assistance is for. It's not for people who don't want to do anything and sit around and be lazy and don't feel like working. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/paymentroadprod. You can email show directly, paymentroadproductions@gmail.com. Share the post, tell your friends, subscribe right there. This has been a big one. I was really looking forward to getting this one out. I'm going to try to do these more often. Obviously, this was a big one. I had to get out and focus just on this one topic. But there's a lot of other topics and a lot more I want to work on getting out. So be sure to subscribe, and you can get them wherever they come out. And ideally, in a perfect world, I'll be able to do these more often and kind of break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces and not have to do a whole hour 15, hour and a half long show. But it is what it is in this case. So be sure to subscribe. Don't miss anything. It's the summer, so we're not having really a ton of other things. Maybe some sports stuff come up here. No real TV stuff to talk about, at least not till maybe September. But be sure to subscribe so you get everything whenever we do get this stuff out. And thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing the post. And thanks for telling your friends. And until next time, I think that's it. So, bye, Dan.